Democrats now have another Republican Senate seat that they can challenge next year to try to win back control of the Senate. Georgia Republican Senator Johnny Isakson announced that he will retire at the end of this year for health reasons. Senator Isakson has suffered a series of health setbacks. He will be resigning his Senate seat halfway through his 6-year term. Senator Isakson issued a statement today saying he really did not want to leave the Senate halfway through his term, but he said, with the mounting health challenges I am facing, I have concluded that I will not be able to do the job over the long term in the manner the citizens of Georgia deserve. It goes against every fiber of my being to leave in the middle of my Senate term, but I know it's the right thing to do on behalf of my state. This now means Senator Isakson's seat will be on the ballot next year in Georgia, where the other Republican Senator, David Perdue, is already running for his reelection next year. And President Trump's numbers in Georgia had already been encouraging to Democrats for what was supposed to be a campaign for one Georgia Senate seat, but will now be a campaign for 2 Senate seats. Donald Trump's approval is now below 50% in Georgia. His approval rating is at 49%. His disapproval rating is at 47%. Democrats were already encouraged by the latest polling in another state, Arizona, showing Democratic candidate Mark Kelly ahead of appointed Senator Martha McSally. For a look at the complexity of Senate races in Georgia and the rest of the Senate map, we have the benefit of the nonpartisan observations of election expert Larry Sabato. He is the director of the University of Virginia's Center for Politics and the author of the new and important book, The Blue Wave: The 2018 Midterms and What They Mean for the 2020 Elections. And Larry, let's start with the frame of your book, the 2018 elections and what they mean for 2020. What's the large message there?
Well, the large message is that you need to focus as much as possible on swing states and swing districts and focus on the suburbs there, because Trump has turned off suburban voters, and especially women suburban voters, and especially white women suburban voters. So you've got your target group. They're prepared to hear your message. Nominate strong candidates in states like Georgia, and you'll have a decent chance to win.
Where do you see the Democrats with their best chances for the Senate at this point?
Certainly Colorado. I would say any Democrat who's nominated is probably going to be favored against the one-term Republican Senator Cory Gardner. Colorado really tipped into the Democratic column in 2008, and it's never moved away. It's become more Democratic. Second would be Arizona, which you just mentioned. I would say, even though it's close and there's an appointed Republican incumbent, Martha McSally, she lost the race for the other Senate seat in 2018. She was appointed here. I would give Democrats at least a slight edge there. Kelly is a very strong nominee. Then, of course, you have Alabama. That's the problem for the Democrats. Doug Jones won against Roy Moore. We all remember Roy Moore. And they may nominate him again, which would be the best thing possible for Democrats and the best thing possible for Doug Jones. Without him, it's tough to hold that seat. But there are others. You just mentioned Georgia. This is important. It's a double-headed Senate election. We've had over a couple dozen of them in the 100 years that we've had elective Senate races, and almost always they go in the same direction. You have to go back to 1966 to find one that split. And because we're so polarized, Lawrence, they almost always go the way of the presidential election. So if Democrats can nominate a strong candidate and capitalize on Trump's relatively low ratings in Georgia, they could get 2 seats out of this, not just 1.
So Georgia, if they picked up the 2, that could really be the key to winning back control of the Senate right there. Let's go to Maine quickly too, Larry, because Susan Collins doesn't have good numbers in Maine for an incumbent. She's got a 45% approval against a 48% disapproval. The president's numbers in Maine are bad, 55% disapprove, 42% approval for Donald Trump in Maine. How about the Maine Senate race?
Absolutely, it's on the map, and it is a potential gain for Democrats, unless, as Susan Collins has before, she can find a path to separate herself from the Republican president without alienating his strong supporters. You know, good luck. This is going to be her toughest race ever. So yeah, that's another potential pickup, and it's only going to happen if Democrats win the White House and they get the vice president too to break a tie. If you get the Democrats winning the White House, there's I would say, a good to very good chance that the Democrats will surprise a lot of people and take the Senate too.
And in that case, they'll have the White House, the Senate, and the House. They would have real control for something they haven't had for a while.
Exactly.
Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on the button below for more from The Last Word and the rest of MSNBC.